So let me just quickly tell you a little bit about myself, because I only entered the coaching world myself 5 years ago, and I sometimes think it was only 5 years ago. I'm a true believer that, yes, obviously you can be trained to become a coach, but it's probably a part of who you are and your approach to life. So I think I've always coached in some kind of format, whether I was a leader. So I've done lots of different roles within the retail sector. I've been in some of your shoes. So I've done OD roles, HR roles, program manager roles, customer experience roles, all those kind of good stuff until I left. I worked for John Lewis for 15 years. And I left during COVID because I was a single mum with 3 teenage kids at home, trying to homeschool them and trying to hold a full-time job, and thought I was about to have a nervous breakdown. So I decided I needed to create a change. So that change was becoming a coach, and it was the best thing I've ever done. So I now do a job that I absolutely love with a whole bunch of people that I like working with as well. So I'll talk to you a little bit about our organisation, because we potentially could offer some services for you if that's the kind of thing that you're looking for. So there'll be a little bit of a sell in there, but hopefully you'll get an understanding of the kind of offer that we provide to people, mainly within the sports sector, a little bit within NHS and health, but it's kind of really sector diagnostic, agnostic rather than diagnostic. So that's a little bit about me. And what I thought I would do today is try and have a good mix between getting you doing a little bit of thinking, because I always found that that's way more interesting than you listening to me talking the whole time, and giving you some chance to talk to each other. So let me just get my slides at the right slot. So I've just tried to structure the session that we'll be sort of in and out of breakout groups, listening to me chatting a little bit, giving you some thoughts, and then hopefully ending the session with just thinking about how you might develop your coaching and mentoring program. But I did want to just up front say that as an organisation, we offer a coaching service, but we've just won a contract to offer a mentoring service. So we ourselves, that's what I've been doing today, are designing our own mentoring program. So I might learn something from you guys with where you're up to, as we think we've got a pretty good idea, but it's got to be ready in 6.5 weeks' time. So that's stressing me out just a little bit. So I'm going to make a start, if that's all right with all of you. So purpose of today is to talk a little bit about purpose and benefits of coaching and mentoring. I'll talk to you a little bit about the activation project. I'll show you some of the coaching and mentoring interventions that we offer people as a part of our coaching program, and some of the reasons behind it, which I thought you might find useful. And then I thought we would have some time having a bit of a discussion about how you might be developing your own coaching and or mentoring programs. And then I will look to hand back to Lee for about 4:45, hopefully with everybody having felt like they've had enough time for discussion, etc. Is that okay with everyone? Please do shout out if it's not, and I will do my best to adjust it accordingly. Okay, so let's start off just quickly then. I'm going to ask you to go into your 3 groups again. Is what do you believe are the purpose and benefits of coaching and mentoring from either your perspective or your organisation's perspective? And then what we'll do is we'll come back together and share for 5 minutes, and then I've got some thoughts on what I believe the purpose and benefits of coaching and mentoring are. So is everyone all right with that? Does that all make sense? Okay, so Lee, would you mind putting people into groups? So what I thought I would do is I'm just going to give you a slide actually I was meant to share with you before you went into your breakout room, so I'll share it with you now. Can you see the slide that says inputs? Just checking. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. So I suppose one of the things that I've always found that sometimes people get quite confused between coaching and mentoring, and I just found a couple of these little descriptions of the differences between, and I think that's quite critical. We know in our coaching business quite often you can slip into mentoring quite quickly, depending on the nature of the relationship that you have with your coachee. but as I mentioned to you earlier, we're looking at running a separate mentoring program. And that's really tested us to work out, okay, what are the parameters around mentoring and how should it work? And where's the drive coming from? And we believe that comes from the mentee, from a mentoring program, where a coaching program, obviously you've got the coaches a little bit more in control of the sessions. Obviously it's all for the benefit of the coachee, and I just thought these couple of inputs might help you just think about, well, what is it that you're actually wanting to develop, and what is the role of coaching and what is the role of mentoring. And I quite like that push-pull continuum of who's pushing to get the work done, and when are you in a sort of learning capacity. So hopefully just a couple of those inputs are helpful just to get you thinking. So what I wondered, these are some of my thoughts of what I think the purpose and benefits of coaching and mentoring can be. From your groups, do you want to just add, is there anything that you disagree with that I've got on this slide, or what did your group come up with? Can I just ask one group to give me their thoughts, and then we'll go around to the other two groups and we'll just spend about 5 minutes on this? So anybody from group one fancy sharing their thoughts?
I can't remember which group I was
Shall
in
I
now.
say?
Was it
Okay,
group one?
Your group one. Let's say
Oh,
your group one
excellent.
did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we were talking about the fact that certainly with Nicola and I, so Nicola's based within the kind of the NHS, and us within Wiltshire, our mentoring and coaching system is very well established and very well embedded.
Yeah.
And we use mentors. Every director, and we have 18 directors, every director is a mentor, and it's seen as part of their package of responsibilities. And so within our leadership program, each person on the leadership program is paired up with one of the directors as a mentor. But anybody can request coaching, so it's certainly not an exclusive offer.
Yeah.
And we have our own internally trained coaches. I mean, they do the ILM 5, but so we have our internal network. And you know, it is something that is seen as great in terms of supporting development for individuals, allowing individuals the opportunity to talk to somebody who can be seen often as more objective.
Yeah.
And it also supports, you know, we have a number of values within the organisation. It supports the one council approach, where we're all here to support each other.
Okay.
And certainly from my perspective as a coach, it does give you that incredible insight into other areas of the organisation. So from a selfish point of view, it can be quite enlightening sometimes. And directors have also mentioned that it helps them to stay connected when they are mentoring within the organisation.
Fantastic, thank you. One of the other groups, are you happy to share your discussion?
The second group was Joanne, Kate, Caroline.
Yeah, I'm happy to come in, Kate and Joanne, if you're happy to do that. We sort of went down the route of coaching being embedded as part of the culture and as part of management and leadership programs. So starting to, sorry, the dog's going bananas.
It's okay, we can't hear him or her.
Okay. And that offer of a coaching program, so people requesting one-to-one. So I'm going to have to stop because the dog's going absolutely bananas. Sorry, Kate, or do you want to pick up on that?
Yeah, fine. I think we talked more about the benefits to an organisation and how we talked about what the benefits for individuals, but it was more about kind of how it can support cultural change and embed learning within an organisation, you know, to keep people working towards a single direction, I suppose, as an organisational benefit rather than kind of personal benefit. And then we started talking about reciprocal mentoring or reverse mentoring, as well as a kind of an additional element of a coaching and mentoring offer. Yeah, sorry, I don't know if hopefully that's added something.
Thank you, Kate. Sorry, I was completely put off by the dog, but thank you for continuing.
Anything else you want to add before we move on to the last group? No. How about the last group? Lee, were you in that group?
I wasn't. I was in that one actually, but the last
Okay.
one was Megan, Barbara, and Joe.
Are you happy, Megan and Barbara? I can put on a few points, and if I miss anything, come in. I think some of what was already, is that all right? Some of what's already been said. So, particularly kind of around the reverse mentoring, Megan was saying how useful that's been in their organisation, and we talked a bit about kind of how empowering coaching and mentoring can be, and particularly with kind of well-being around resilience, and also linking that to kind of the EDI elements of an organisation as well, so that those benefits that it can bring in terms of more inclusivity, again impacting on the culture, etc., and the health of the organisation generally. I don't know if Megan and Barbara, if I've missed anything, want to kind of come in.
I think you summarised that really well. We spoke a bit about collaboration as well, and the opportunity to create connection between different parts of the organisation potentially too, as one of the other wider benefits. Okay, brilliant. All right then. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to briefly talk to you about the offer that we offer within the sports sector, and I'm going to caveat that by saying, in my opinion, this is my personal opinion, the sports sector, whilst it's a fantastic sector, I would say its leadership capabilities at a fairly low maturity level. Not through much fault of their own, but there's just not been a lot of investment compared to some of the things I'm hearing from some of your organisations, where you've got it, you're building your leadership capability the whole time, and sounds like you've got your own coaching and mentoring schemes and can see the much bigger picture. So the work that we've done within the sport and physical activity sector has really been to help leaders really develop themselves as individuals, and they have the opportunity to come to this coaching that's paid for by an organisation called Sport England. And I feel that's harnessed, or it's enabled people to say, I need help and support I can't necessarily get from within my organisation. So I thought I would just sort of set that up. So what we offer is the opportunity to help people have that space. Some people have never ever been coached before, so this is a first time experience for them, and we have a bank of coaches. There's 13 of us that mainly are actually outside of the sports sector, and we found that that's provided quite a lot of independence and enabled people, I think, to really build confidential relationships, because we're not feeding anything back to anyone. So this is a little bit about who we are. We've only been going ourselves for the last 4 years. We're a not-for-profit. We also work with Sport Wales as well, and as I mentioned, we do a small amount of work within some NHS trusts and another health organisation. So we're still quite new as a part of our development as well. A little bit about our sort of mission and core values, which I can let you have a read through in your own time. And this is our journey that I was just talking to you about. So we have a sister organisation that's run a consultancy business for the last 20 years, and the directors of the organisation wanted to give something back. They wanted to set up a not-for-profit and use all the experience that they'd had over the last 20 years to invest in a sector that they felt really needed help and support. So that's a little bit about our journey. We provide a number of different services. We provide individual coaching, and we also provide team coaching as well. And as I just mentioned to you, we're looking to develop a mentoring program. So I'd love it if, I'm not sure we'll have time, but I'd love to understand how your reciprocal and reverse mentoring is, because this is really bending our brain. We can't quite work out how to do this within the sports sector, where there's quite a lot of small organisations with not that many people in them. So that's our offer. And we have a feedback app that enables you to record how you're feeling between your coaching sessions, which we found really invaluable. And we also have a set of what I believe are some really fantastic tools. And I was just going to take you through some of those tools shortly, just to give you a bit of a flavour about what we cover. I don't want it to feel like I'm teaching you to suck eggs, because that's not my objective, but I believe some of the tools that we've helped people use and think about has really enriched their coaching experience. So that's a little bit about our services. Here are a couple of our testimonials that I'll leave you to have a read, like I say, in your own time, where we found that it's been quite a significant impact on those individuals. And then what I thought I'd do now is just spend just a bit of time talking about some of the tools that we use within our programme. And Lee will know most of these, because I'm sure him and I spoke about lots of them. But one of the things that we use this particular tool is to explain what actually coaching is all about. So I'm sure you will have seen a version of what we call comfort, stretch and panic. And so we call this about getting in your stretch zone. And this is where we believe this is the optimal place where you're going to learn and grow. And this for us epitomises what coaching is all about. How do you have the confidence to take a few different steps than you would normally take to do something in a different way? And that's the benefit of having a coach, getting you to think about, well, okay, what have you tried before? How might you try something different? And we found that quite often people use this language and concept within their different organisations. And in fact, I was coaching somebody a little while ago who said, oh, we've got this new concept, and showed me this. I was like, oh, it's one of your leaders been through our coaching programme. Yes, I recognise that. So it's great that people are taking it and pushing it out to others. So this is one of the tools that we use an awful lot. Another tool that I know all of you will be familiar with is the change curve. And we found, particularly within the sports sector, that there was so much change going on that whilst people had perhaps heard about the change curve and knew a little bit about it, we produced these tools that really sort of help explain what the change curve is all about, how you might recognise where you are on the change curve, and what you might do as a line manager or as a leader to help your team through it. So you'll notice we've got some very creative people here to make everything look very beautiful and really engages with people. So this is what we use as our change curve, and then we give people definitions of what it all means and then how you might use it effectively. We also then talk about the Bridges transition model and about why you kind of might use the two together and how it might help you. And what we found is quite often just having these conversations and helping people think differently has enabled them to really embrace the coaching and also take something tangible away from it, which is why we have these tools that we offer out then to anybody that we coach, and they have access to a range of about 40 or 50 tools that we're constantly evolving and developing. So that's the change curve that we use quite a lot. This one is one of my personal favourites. This was developed by one of my colleagues quite a while ago, and this really helps you think about where your focus is at any time. Again, I'll let you have a read through these when I send the slides around, but this just helps you look at where do you spend your time and attention, and you give yourself a score between 0 being in the middle of the axis and 5 on the outside. Where are you now around those different aspects? And then the exercise then moves on to where do you want to be in 6 months' time. So recognising where you perhaps spending your time and attention that isn't isn't serving you well, and what action might you take to move to spending more time looking outwards or more time looking forwards, etc. So that's another one of my personal favourites, and I think it gives people a real insight into kind of where they are. And that just talks you through how you might run the exercise. This other one we've used an awful lot, especially within the sport and physical activity sector, because managing relationships, stakeholders, and again, just to set the context, some of these organisations are really small. I can't quite remember, Lee, how many people you had with you within England Badminton, but some organisations have about 10 to 12 people. Other people, you know, a large organisation would have 400 people in them. There's not that many of them. So quite often people are having to do many different aspects of roles. And we found getting them to think about what type of relationships they had with people across either their organisation or their partners surrounding them was really important. And this tool is another personal favourite, where it really encourages you to think about what type of relationships do you actually have. And I know when I was doing this for myself, I was amazed at how many acquaintances I actually had that I would have said were slightly further up the pyramid. So if you can imagine, you start at the bottom and you work your way up. And we believe aiming for a relationship with somebody as a sort of trusted advisor is probably the optimal place that you would want to get to. But then thinking about who you have relationships with and how do you develop those relationships, how do you maintain those relationships. And then we use this little pyramid to help you think about where are people, where are the states of relationships right now, and how do you want to move them forward, and what action might you take to move that forward. And then I think it's my final one. Lee, you and I definitely did this one. I remember us talking through this, but this one was all about one we developed actually only about a couple of years ago, thinking about how you might build your resilience. And for us, it's not just about what you do during your working day, it's about the whole 24 hours of your day, and what boosts your resilience and what erodes your resilience, and how might you think of it from a mental and physical perspective, and how do you reduce the things that erode your resilience, and how do you boost your resilience by thinking about what are the kind of things that are really important to you. And in even just doing this simple exercise really helps people think about, okay, what you know, I am in control of certain parts of my life. How am I going to make sure I'm influencing and spending time on the things that I know are important to me? I think that was, and this just talks through some things that you might do. We always give you some kind of hints and tips, and then how you might learn from others, become more self-aware, make sure you've got the right amount of sleep, all that kind of good stuff. So I'm just going to stop sharing for a minute, because I wanted to just explain, I wanted to kind of give you just a bit of an overview of kind of services that we offer. Anybody got any thoughts or questions for me before we move on?
Amanda, I was just going to ask, when you work through your company and work with an organisation, how many coaching sessions do you offer an individual? You know, what would you class as their journey?
Yeah, sure. We offer 7 sessions in total. One is what we call a welcome call. So that's where we match a coachee with a coach. So we, like I say, we have 13 coaches, and actually that's the job I do. I do that sort of matching service because we believe that's really important. And because we're working across a whole sector, it's impossible for everybody to have loads of different chemistry sessions, and then they have 5 1.5-hour sessions, and then the final session we give them is what we call a reflection session. So that's their opportunity to think about what have they learnt during their coaching, because even though you're doing the reflection during the sessions, we've really found that last hour you're going, okay, what have I really learnt about myself, what am I going to put forward?
And then we've just added a new part of our proposition called Stay Connected, which is where we offer things like discussion groups. We do a bit of a monthly email, and we also connect people from other organisations with each other where they can come together. So that's our offer. So in answer to your question, 7 sessions, but 5 mainly focused around coaching.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from people?
Yeah, I've got one. It was just more about how you use the tools. Do you use them as kind of in your back pocket to pull out when you need them, or do they reflect, because you've gone through 5 different tools there, do they reflect each of the 5 sessions, and do you get people to work through each of those exercises as part of that coaching?
Great question. Each of the coaches, we have this access to this toolkit, and the coaches only bring it up when it's relevant. We don't link them to the sessions because we just find that doesn't work. We did have that original idea and it just didn't work. So we moved away from that quite quickly. And we categorise all the tools into 6 categories: wellbeing, leadership, communications, engagement, that kind of thing. And it tends to be quite led by the coachee. So if they're talking about something, I know, managing a stakeholder, we might say, look, we've got a bit of an exercise or a tool that you might want to use. Should we work through that? And that might then help you decide which route you're going to go down. So we don't force the tools upon anyone, but we have had lots of feedback that that's really helped people consolidate the discussion into something that's quite action orientated. Yeah,
no, that's how I would envisage something like that, because it's not truly self-directed, is it? If you create a pathway for them, but it's useful to have those kind of tools in your back pocket ready.
And one of the reasons why we did the toolkit in the way that we did, because we used some external coaches who came to work with us, we found that people were bringing their own different tools. And of course, we had no consistent approach. And even though one of our coaches can use some of their own tried and tested tools, we felt it was quite important to offer some kind of consistent offer. But as long as it's been driven by the coachee, not by the coach.
And do you follow a particular kind of coaching approach, like Gestalt, for example, or do you kind of just let the coach follow their own style?
So 2 questions in there. We use a version of the GROW model that we adapted that we call the focus model, which very much sort of takes you through understanding about the individual, what outcomes are they looking for, what do they want to work on, and that, like I say, very similar to the GROW model. And then what we do, and which we found has really worked. At one point, we weren't doing it in such a structured way. We ask people to come to their coaching with a particular challenge that they're wanting to work through. And during the welcome call that I have with them, we explore that challenge quite a bit and break that down into what do you specifically want to get from the coaching. And we found, and in John Lewis, I've taken quite a lot of lessons for how we've done something before. We found if the coaching didn't have any structure or purpose, it could be a bit woolly. So we've taken this sort of, what is the challenge you want to work through? And that's enabled them to hit the ground running with their sort of first coaching session, because they've actually got something that they want to focus on, rather than, I don't really know what I'm here for, or I've not really thought about what the coaching would bring to me. But bearing in mind that there's lots of people in the sector who've never had any coaching before, so coming to us sometimes is their first experience.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, any other questions before we move on to the next group session?
Amanda, one of the discussions in our breakout group was around kind of demonstrated impact and measuring the impact of coaching and mentoring and getting that senior buy-in. Obviously, you've been through the process reporting the way you've had to pitch for the work and being successful in that, and then being able or needed to demonstrate the value that you've given. What kind of things were you using as evidence of impact? What kind of measures, insight, data were you playing back to Sport England to show that?
Yeah, okay. So we do 2 things. One is at the end of the coaching experience, we ask people to give us feedback based on their experience, what they thought of their coach, typical NPS type approach. And we use that data. We actually had, in the main, we had about 50-60% response rate to that, which we understand is pretty good compared to other organisations. But we believe that truly reflected the sort of experience that people had, that they were prepared to share that feedback with us. We then also asked people to be involved in case studies that we then have either shared on our website or shared in our social media. And then I suppose the added bit that we had the benefit of doing is we also were able to share some kind of key themes with Sport England. So whilst we weren't breaking any levels of confidentiality, we were able to say, do you know what, we can see that some of it's around your leadership capability, some of it's around the culture within your organisation, some of it's around people to feel they haven't got time, etc., etc. And we found us being able to take a step back and oversee all the coaches that we had and pull out these kind of key themes that we believe helped us build that relationship with Sport England to say, listen, we think we should tweak the programme by doing it this way because it's going to meet your needs. And also we had feedback from people going back into their organisations that they could see a difference in the people that has come out of the back of the coaching programme to say, they're working in a more inclusive way, they're working in a more collaborative way, etc. So that's how we measured the impact, but it's hard to measure that pure financial impact.
Yeah, great, thank you.
All right. No worries, Joe, thanks for your message. Okay, so what I thought we would spend the last sort of 7, 8, 10-ish minutes on to make sure we've just got a bit of time to come back together was thinking about how you would go about developing or further developing your coaching and mentoring programs. So I can hear that you've got some amazing programs in place. Is there anything from today's discussion that would get you to either review or think about your coaching and mentoring programs in a different way? What I thought we'd do is, if Lee, would you mind giving everybody sort of about 8 minutes, and then we've got 5 minutes to feedback. Are you happy to go back into your groups again and think about how you would then develop your coaching and mentoring offers further than where they are today? And then we'll come back again, like I say, 5 minutes of sharing. So is one of the groups prepared, happy to go first with sharing what you covered in your discussion?
Should we go to group? Let's go with group 3 this time. So I think that was Megan, Barry and Anna.
So as like all good group discussions, we started with apologies for the fact that I turned up very late and therefore hadn't captured the first part of this particular session. And after we'd gone completely off track for a large majority of the breakout, getting to know each other, we then hunkered down to the job at hand. So getting all my excuses out of the way early, we then we were talking a bit about I was being filled in mainly about what happened at the beginning part of it. I joined when the tools started. So in terms of what we would take forward into our teams, I think a lot of the things that you discussed are things that we do at the moment anyway, which is really good. I think in terms of that kind of question that came right at the end from Lee in terms of that impact assessment is probably where most of our questions are coming from now. So every time you have an annual some people leave and you need to replace the coaching on program, it's then how do we approach how do we make sure that we can get the budget for those coaches to be trained, and how do we add them to our stable, and every time that happens the same questions come around what's the impact of coaching, how can we measure it, is there anything else we could do around improving how we measure it, and how do we justify then the spend in time for those individuals who are coaching at that point, and then how do we justify the spend on the training of those coaches around. So I think there's probably some things there for us in terms of taking back to look at. But Megan, I don't know what you were taking back.
I think there's opportunity for us as an organisation to do some of this more formally. So we have a lot more probably at the moment around pilots for the mentoring side of things, and we've got interested parties that do the coaching. So we have more established in terms of the peer supervision and things like that for a coaching community. But I guess at the moment it's less formal apart from our executive coaching offer. So I think there's opportunities for us as an organisation to look at what's that broader offer for the organisation and how do we develop some of that consistency that you were talking about and some of the tools that are open for everyone to be able to use.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you. How about the next group? They must be group 2, whichever way they are. Whichever.
We'll mix it around. So we've got Jude, Nicola and James's group.
James, do you want to?
Yeah, I'll jump in first. For me, my organisation is probably the most immature out of the three. It is the most immature out of the three, hands down. And for me, one of the things that I took from it was actually to step away from trying to explain and help people understand what coaching is, because there's so many different preconceived notions of what it is, and actually just focus on this is what it will do for you. This is when you should reach out for it, and focus on that. Almost, sometimes we all get stuck. It might be a specific performance or a personal challenge or a tricky work situation. And this is the space that you can use, and this is how it'll feel, and this is what you'll get out of it, rather than trying to almost brand coaching when there's so many different starting points of what that is and what it involves. And in an organisation like ours, there's been so many different coaches throughout the years where it's not been a coach at all. It's been some sort of performance framework or something. So just completely reframing how we talk to people about coaching is probably the biggest takeaway that I took.
Okay, brilliant. Anybody else from that group? Anything else that they want to say? What about the final group?
That's Joanne, Kate and Caroline.
Kate had a. Do you want to talk about it? Kate had a great idea, which we're definitely going to take, about the introducing it from a group perspective, which will help us kind of get the word out there, and stop that split between seniors and other people. But Kate, do you want to? I don't know if you want to explain. I thought it was a lovely idea.
Yeah, sure. Although the first thing we were saying is probably all of us we just kind of need to get on with it. That was kind of our first takeaway, wasn't it? Just do something. And then I just randomly was thinking about having a team approach to coaching, so that you really embed it throughout a whole team. I was just thinking more about this organisation where we're looking at kind of transformational change, where there's big change going on in particular areas, or will be. That taking a whole team approach would be useful, so everybody understands the value of coaching and what it is and how they can access it, and kind of train the team up together. And then there might be some emergent kind of coaches that come out of that who can then take up further training and become a coach, and you could have like 2 or 3 teams all experiencing at the same time, and you can kind of reciprocate across teams. And then I was also saying about I find in terms of metrics and the evaluation piece, seeing a team's metrics, you think about their turnover and their sickness absence and compliance with training and things like that, and financial situation will tend to follow a similar pattern. So you might be able to identify changes in those kind of metrics in different teams if you do a bit of a comparison between kind of pilot teams and teams that are not participating in the transformation or the coaching kind of program to start with. So it's about kind of exploring about how it could be worth just taking a slightly more holistic kind of team approach to it. Just thinking out loud, really.
We also embed a more coaching approach across the organisation through our less managing, more coaching approach, and it's off the back of the work by Michael. You've heard of Michael Bungay-Stanier, Amanda, and his 7 killer questions.
Mhm.
So quite often within the public sector and within statutory frameworks that we have to work within, we talk about things like people feeling empowered and taking ownership and accountability for what they do, but it can feel sometimes to those more senior in the organisation that people are waiting to be directed and told what to do. And so we're coming at it from that through that prism of don't manage as such, but coach. So allow people to come up with the solutions themselves, because most often than not they know the answer, but don't be so happy to jump in and tell people what to do.
And we've seen it within the sports sector, and I also remember within retail as well, but it's just that bit of investment in time, is it? And that takes just a little bit longer once you take a coaching approach. But God, the dividends that we reap, but it's not a quick fix over a couple of weeks. It's got to be the mindset, how the team's set up, how the leader supports their team, etc. But you can see such a difference, can't you? And a happier workforce at the end of the day, because people know what they're doing and not waiting to be told what to do the whole time. Yeah. Okay, brilliant. Anything else from anyone else? I'm kind of conscious, I know you like to have a little bit of time to chat together before the end of the session. Anything else?
Caroline, Caroline, do you want to say that bit about that you agreed with Amanda about having a certain type of person for coaching and your badge collectors, which I absolutely loved.
Come on, tell me about your badge collectors.
I thought it was a known phrase actually, but maybe not. No, we talked about the importance of having the right people for whatever you're looking at, team, organizational, individual, and how you recruit that, needing to be the right people, and generally the people that are interested probably would be the right people. It's kind of an approach to self, isn't it? But there are also those, when you put an offer out, those badge collectors that come back going, lovely, that's free, I'll have that, I'd like that on my CV, and they're not going to be the right people. So how you still keep something very fair and put that offer out, because we don't want it to just be senior people who are doing this. So how you keep it fair, but also make sure in your selection process that you are getting the right people, because in my experience these kind of things rise and fall on the who.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. Thanks, Caroline. Any other thoughts from anyone else? No. Well, I hope that's given you a little bit of food for thought, giving you just a bit of something to stimulate your thinking on a Monday afternoon at nearly 5 to 5. It's been lovely to meet you all. I would love to know loads more about all of your organisations, but perhaps I'll have to come at another time. Thank you for having me. And Lee, shall I hand back to you?